Yeah, double homicide.
We get it! Your mom doesn't know how to cook bamya. Let me show you how it's done.
So this is bamya, which is Arabic for okra. It's a delicious okra stew with nice big chunks of lamb, and to me it's a dish that gets an unnecessary amount of hate. When I asked my friend Chef PK about it, he went on a bit of a rant, then he sent me this crude drawing to emphasize his point, and I don't really blame him. You see, depending upon how you use it, okra can develop a slimy texture, but there are ways around it. The first one is by cooking the okra whole. Most of the sliminess in okra comes from its seeds. As I slice this okra, watch for all the sliminess that sticks to the knife. To prevent this, you can use your okra intact, which will make it harder for the sliminess to leach into your dish. You can see that here where I cooked 100 grams of sliced okra in 100 grams of water, versus this one where I cooked the same amounts without slicing it. The sliced one is super slimy and it's pretty disgusting to look at. The unsliced one is a little ropey, but it's way better than the sliced one. That proves that you'll save yourself a load of slime by using whole okra. One way to do that is to look out for bags of frozen small okra. This is what we use in the Middle East, and you can either get the small or tiny size, which means even less seeds to worry about. Now even if you don't slice it, the okra can still be slimy inside after cooking, which brings us to technique number 2. The sliminess comes from mucilage or plant mucus, and that can be broken down using acids. Simply add something acidic like lemon juice or vinegar to slimy okra while cooking, and the sliminess will reduce substantially. Using those 2 bits of knowledge you can make okra that isn't slimy, and that's exactly what we'll do to this Egyptian bamya. First we'll use an acidic tomato base, then we'll add in lime juice for even more acid. We'll also use small okra which doesn't need to be cut, and we'll serve it with some pickles and plenty of extra lime. This will all be on a bed of vermicelli rice, and this is the best side dish for any Middle Eastern stew. To make the bamya, take 2 onions and chop them to a fine dice. Once that's done, add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil to a pot over medium heat, then add in the onions and saute them for about 3 minutes. Once they start to soften, add in 6 cloves of minced garlic, then saute that with the onion for another minute. Now you'll add in the meat, and we're using 1 kilogram of lamb leg pieces. I got my butcher to cut these to a large size so they don't disappear when cooked, and we've also left in the bone and fat for added flavour. Move the onions to the side, then add in the lamb and let it sear for a couple of minutes. You can brown these as much as you want, but we're just going for a light sear that looks like this. Once all your pieces are a little browned, you want to deglaze the pot by adding in 800 grams of tomato passata. This is just crushed tomatoes, and I made it by blending 2 cans of canned tomatoes together, but you can also get it pre-crushed in bottles like these. Once that's added, rinse out your container with 500 ml of water and add that to the pot as well. Now all you need to do is bring the pot to a light boil, and when it looks like this, turn the heat down and cover the pot with a lid while it simmers. It needs to be cooked until the meat is pretty tender, and for my lamb that took around 1.5 hours. While that simmers, you can make a fresh tomato pickle, and this is the classic accompaniment to bamya in Egypt. It's stuffed with a garlic and chili dressing which is a little spicy, plus the vinegar in it helps to cut through the fattiness of the stew. Break out a pestle and mortar and add in 4 to 5 large cloves of garlic with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, then mash and grind them together into a rough paste. Add in 1 spicy green chilli of any kind, and I just took out the seeds and sliced it like so. Pound this into the garlic until you pretty much liquefied it. Now add in a 1/4 teaspoon each of black pepper and cumin, then 2 tablespoons each of white vinegar and freshly squeezed lemon juice. Now add 1 tablespoon of oil and mix it all together to combine. Lastly, you'll add in 1 tablespoon of chopped parsley, and this needs to be minced until it's about this small. Mix that into the dressing and it will have this beautiful sharp, herby and spicy flavour, which is going to be perfect. Now get yourself some good vine ripened tomatoes, about 350 grams of them should be enough. Make 3 slices in them to cut them into 6 pieces, but only cut 2/3 of the way down the tomato so that it's still held together like this. Once you've sliced them, it's a simple matter of filling all the cuts with the dressing, and you should pack this in so each slice is covered from top to bottom. Pour over any leftover dressing, then let these hang out in your fridge or on your counter until you're ready to eat them. I'd advise not letting these sit for too long though, otherwise the tomatoes can soften and the dressing loses its bite. Next up we'll make the vermicelli rice, and this recipe results in some crazy fluffy rice where all the grains will be perfectly separated. Start off by adding 1 tablespoon of butter and 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil to a pot over medium heat. When the butter has melted, you add in half a cup of wheat vermicelli. This needs to be fried in the fat for about 2.5 minutes, mixing it constantly until it turns the shade of brown. Once it does, add in 1.5 cups of washed and drained Egyptian rice. Mix this with the vermicelli and fry it for about 30 seconds. Then you'll pour in either water or for added flavour some stock. This needs to cover the rice by about 1 cm, then turn the heat up to high. Add 1 teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper, then mix well and bring to a boil. Once it's boiling like this, cover the pot with a tight fitting lid and let this continue to cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. When the time is up, the water should have dropped below the rice like this, and you can now turn the heat down to low, then replace the lid so that this can continue to cook. Set the timer for 20 minutes, then when that's done, the rice should be perfectly cooked. You should use a fork to fluff it up and it will get super fluffy and delicious like this. You can serve it right away or cover it to keep warm. By the time you've done the pickle and the rice, the meat will probably be cooked through. What you're looking for is for a fork to easily push through the meat, and that's a good sign that it's done cooking. Once you are happy with the meat, you can add in your okra, and we used 800 grams of this quick frozen okra, which I think is the perfect size for bamya. Add that straight to the pot with about a cup of water, then mix it well with the liquid, and turn the heat to medium to bring this to a light boil. Once it's boiling like this, you should add 1 tablespoon of salt and 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper, then let it simmer with the lid ajar for about 10 minutes. When the time is up, your okra should be pretty much cooked, with just the tiniest amount of bite. You should now add in a hot green chilli, and I removed the core and most of the seeds from mine. Follow the top with 4 cloves of minced garlic, then pour in the juice of 2 limes or about 3 tablespoons. Cook this for another 5 minutes and then your bamya is ready. The okra is perfectly cooked, yet the sauce isn't slimy or off-putting. I'll point out that you should be very careful stirring the pot at this point, because the okra will be quite soft, and you want to avoid breaking the pods open. Finally, feel free to skim off any excess fat from the top of the pot before serving. Now it's just a matter of filling a bowl with some of that fantastic rice, then topping it with a ladle of the bamya. Another way of serving this is to place your cooked bamya in a clay pot like this, then baking it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. When it comes out, the sauce will have browned and reduced like so, and I find that this also helps to cut down on even more mucilage. Here's a much nicer looking plate of bamya, and you'll want to serve this with the tomato pickle we made and some slices of lime. We also included an aubergine pickle which we had in the fridge, and you can get this recipe from our Egyptian breakfast video. Before eating, make sure to squeeze over plenty of fresh lime juice, then enjoy this hearty and delicious stew.
Just give it a quick squeeze of lemon juice, just some fresh acidity. Oh yeah, that's gonna be good. That's a good bite. Oh, love it. Whatever your opinion on okra, this recipe will make you love it. The texture is just right, and to me it's a fantastic winter stew. Now click here to see more Middle Eastern vegetable dishes.